Hey everybody, DM Jim here, and welcome to a new episode of the Tabletop Engineer. It is summer in the Kelly household, and both of my boys are out of school, and I am looking for some ways and things to do to limit their video game time. Now, that's their hobby, and I don't want to, deter them from that, and I also don't push my own hobbies on my kiddos. But I want them to try some skirmish war games this summer, one in particular that I'm going to introduce you to in this video. My hope is that we could play the game on and off throughout the summer, and if they really enjoy it, maybe they would be interested in helping me make some more terrain to play it. Now, the game in particular is called Operation Last Train. It is written by a friend of mine, Joseph McCullough, who is also the author of Frostgrave and Ghost Archipelago and Rangers of Waterdeep. These are three very fun games. I tend to play Frostgrave, I have played Ghost Archipelago, and I have played Rangers, which is a solo game. But he's got this new game out, and let me tell you real quick about it. It only costs $5 for the rules, okay? It's a solo game and a cooperative game. You don't really play against an opponent. It is science fiction based. The basic idea is that you're going to control some soldiers, sci-fi soldiers, and you are landing on a planet to rescue civilians from the bugs. Think Starship Troopers or Aliens. You can play solo, and you play with 6 soldiers, and you need some civilians to rescue, and you need some aliens or bugs, and you need some terrain to throw on the table. Now, 2 episodes back, you saw that I showed you how to make a drop ship. You'll also want a drop ship for it, but you can use anything for a drop ship. You could use a shoebox, anything that could be a target to get the civilians to and off the planet. Now, here's the really cool element of the game. The rules are $5, and that's a recommended price. Okay, Joe has created the rules inexpensively because he wants to encourage people to play the game and support a charity called For the Children, or Save the Children. And when you play the game, for every civilian that you rescue off the planet, right, he wants you to make a donation to the charity of 10 cents American. Okay, so if you rescue 20 civilians, $2. And I like that idea because I think I can use that to encourage my boys to come play with me. Let's rescue some civilians, and we'll make a donation at the end of the game to save the children, and we'll have some fun playing the game. Now, I have soldiers, I have bugs, I have the dropship, and I have a mat to play it on. I need sci-fi terrain. Now, some of you over here, back here, you've probably seen over the last year and a half, I've made sci-fi terrain, and I need more of it. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to make a really inexpensive but pretty functional piece of terrain that serves as like maybe a house or a barracks or just a building that can block line of sight. You could hide behind, it's something to put on the field. Let me show it to you. This is one of them right here. I've got 4 of these. I've made 4 in different colors. And let's get to the tabletop. I'll show you how I did these. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to lay out the game and explain the basics of how it works. And maybe it'll be something you're interested in and we'll give a shot. Let's get to the tabletop and let me show you how to make these. You can find these blue boxes at most hardware stores. They're usually between $1 and $2 and come in different sizes. I bought 4 of this round type and then spray painted 3 of them in different colors. Next, I traced out the top shape of the box onto chipboard, and I cut it out to create a template that I could then use to cut out a piece of thin gray foam. Now, what I'm going to do is basically create a, let's call it a solar collector for the top. So I glued down the gray foam on top of the housing unit is what I'm calling it. And then I used that template again to cut some granny grading in the same shape. And this time I took hot glue and I went around the edge of the gray foam and then just pressed the granny grading down to create this solar collector. After that, I wanted to make it look more science fiction-y, so I took these are called wire connectors. The red ones are 3-pin and the yellow are 2-pin or 2-wire connectors. And I just used some super glue and some accelerator to keep them from sliding around. I attached 4 red ones to the sides, and then I attached 3 of these yellow ones to the little wings that sort of fold out and make it look a little more authentic. Just put some super glue on one, spray some accelerator on the surface, and then touch it. And then for the final piece, I had these 4 plastic pieces that I 3D printed for some other stuff I can't recall. They just looked very industrial, so I just hot glued them down on top. And I had 4 of them, and the final thing was just to paint some of the detail work black. Okay, everybody, I have brought you into my impromptu gaming table, ping pong table, because I want to talk to you about this game, Operation Last Train, and what's involved in it. Now, a couple videos ago, you saw me make this drop ship right here. That will come into the game. I just showed you how to make these little housing units for terrain. And these 2 pieces back here are from previous videos, and I'll put a link below so you can go see how I made those. Now, Operation Last Train is written by Joseph McCullough, and it is a skirmish war game that you can play solo or as a team. Here's what you're going to need. You're going to need 6 science fiction-y type soldiers, okay? Doesn't matter what they look like. You could use Lego minifigs. It just doesn't matter. You need something to represent your soldiers. You're going to need, the rules say 8 civilians. Print up a dozen or so. I'll put a link below to where I found these. These are simply paper science fiction civilians that I printed out. I've got a bunch more in the workshop there, but I just wanted to give you sort of an idea what they look like. Nothing fancy. I don't really have any civilian miniatures just yet. I'm looking for some good ones, but these are, I printed them out, glued them front and back, and then hot glued them to a base. And, they're pretty sturdy. They stand up. And then you're going to need the bad guys. Now, these are my bugs, aliens. I bought a package of 10 of these off of eBay for a really low price. Painted them up, dipped them in some wash, and they look suitably greasy and nasty. You're going to need maybe a dozen. The rules are kind of up in the air depending on the scenario that you play. But, you want to get a good collection of them. And again, soldiers, civilians, bugs. You could go with paper miniatures for all of these just to test out the game and see if you like it. Of course, you're going to want terrain. You don't necessarily need a mat to play on. I just have this one. It's neoprene. What do they call it? Neoprene, like the mouse pads, and just makes for easy rolling. Now, last, you're going to need some dice. You'll need 2 10-sided dice, okay? And maybe a 6-sided, depending on the scenario. The game rules come in a document that is only 13 pages long. Out of that 13 pages, you're going to have something called heroic action cards. There are 12 of these. You'll print these out, shuffle them up before a game, and for each soldier that you send into the game, you'll draw one of these. And there's additional rules. Your soldiers, when they survive a rescue operation, that's considered a successful drop, and they get a point. And so you're going to keep track of your soldiers on a roster sheet like this. And you can have up to 100 soldiers. At the end of an operation, they survive, they're missing in action, killed in action, or injured. And if they're injured, they're out for 3 games. And then, of course, you can just use another one of your 100 volunteers. There's a story here where you're basically getting 100 volunteers to join this unique operation to go and rescue civilians from these planets that are being attacked by the bugs. So basically what happens is during a game, each of your soldiers, there are 4 types that you can choose from. Let's see, heavy infantry, light infantry, rifleman, and grenadier, if I remember right. Yeah, grenadier. Each one of them has a movement, a shoot value, and a fight value, okay? The movement is in inches. The shoot value, that number is based on rolling a 10-sided die. So if this person shoots a gun, you roll a die, and if it's 7 or higher, you hit. And then there's specific rules about whether a hit kills a bug outright or knocks it down. And then some soldiers and some aliens can have armor, and that will also, there's a rule that affects how that is treated. For fighting, you have a value, and that is hand-to-hand. That's what happens when a soldier and a bug, or a soldier and a bug and a civilian come into contact. Then it switches over to fight. And there are rules specifically for how that is resolved. Now, I will tell you, out of all the skirmish games I've played over the years, these rules are pretty simple. Again, 13 pages, and it's all in there. Actually, it's like 11 pages because there's a one-page story and the cards. So 11 pages in all for the rules, and very, very easy to follow, very easy to play. If you play a solo game with 6 soldiers, a game usually lasts about an hour. If you're playing with a partner, 2 people, each one of you will control 3 soldiers, and it usually takes about an hour and a half, not much longer, just because you've got 2 people playing the game and making decisions and things like that. There's a lot of strategy with this game, using line of sight to keep... the bugs will move randomly if they do not see a target, all right? The civilians, depending on the scenario, there are rules about when the civilians make an appearance, how many of them there are. To rescue a civilian, your soldier needs to come in contact with it. And at that point, when a soldier moves, the civilian moves, and a soldier can take up to 3 civilians following them. All right? Now, the civilians typically move a little slower than the soldiers. So if a soldier's moving at 7, these move at 6, they'll always have about a 1-inch gap between them. And the farther you move, the bigger that gap is going to get, okay? But they will still follow a soldier around, depending on your strategy. Now, the bugs will move randomly if they don't see a target, but if they see multiple targets, they will pick the closest one and they will move in that direction. And they will continue to move in that direction until they come in contact, and then a hand-to-hand fight occurs. On a turn, a soldier gets 2 actions. They get a move and a shoot. You can do them in any order. And for instance, if the soldier moves on his first action and comes in contact with a bug, a fight occurs. That's resolved. Let's say the bug is knocked down and pushed back an inch. The soldier still has his shoot action, so now he may take that shoot action and try to kill the bug. Like I said, there's some really interesting strategies here. My favorite has to be the dropship. At any point during the game, you can choose that your soldiers have called in the dropship, right? So what you do is you pick a point on the board. Let's just say I want it to land there, all right? So I'm calling in the dropship. You're going to roll 2 10-sided dice. The larger value is how far away that ship actually landed from your point. It's kind of like a miscommunication. And it also, you see it's pointing in a certain direction, the 10-sided die. It's sort of random. So it's going to move 10 inches from that point in that direction. So it ends up way over there. So there's a little bit of randomness in the dice rolls. And in combat, a lot of times you're rolling 2 dice and you're choosing the value you want. So some of the soldiers only roll 1 die, but you roll or resolve 1, but you roll 2 and you pick the best one, right? Some weapons will roll multiple dice. Like I think the machine gun rolls 3. Okay, so you either need 3 D10s or just roll an extra one. Let's see what else. Oh, the dropship. So obviously, you want to get your soldiers and your civilians to the dropship. When they come in contact with the dropship, you take them off the board and you put them in a box, like a shoe box, or you can even create an interior, like if you wanted to take a dropship and create it so it has an interior, take the lid off and put the figures inside. Bugs will still move towards the dropship if they see a civilian or a soldier. Civilians and civilians can fight hand to hand, not shoot. Soldiers who are in the dropship can still fire out as long as they have line of sight. Also, anyone inside the dropship can at any time decide to exit the dropship. So let's say the bugs are starting to swarm the dropship and you had a soldier and 3 civilians. You could take them out again and lead them away to try to lead them to safety. The heroic action cards, like I said, you get 1 per soldier. If you have a certain number of drops, I think 25 or 50, you get some bonus pulls, but never more than 2 extra cards. And these cards can be assigned to soldiers. And some of them give, like, a reroll, or if a soldier's knocked down, they're not really knocked down. If they're killed, they're really not killed. So these add another little bit of randomness and fun to the game that can really change the tide. That's about it. I have been playing this solo. I have not yet had a chance to play it with a teammate. I'm looking to take this to Mace in Charlotte, North Carolina in November and play with some friends. But I have to tell you, if you're looking to get into a skirmish game, if you've never played a skirmish game, this is a great introduction to sort of the speed at which the game goes, and also the simplicity of the rules. It's also a great way to get friends or family members or your kids into wargaming and show them how much fun it is. Digital, my boys, they play a lot of video games, but my oldest is starting to really sort of enjoy this tactile concept of war games where you have miniatures that you're moving and measuring and things like that. So I can highly, highly recommend this game. I'm having so much fun with it. And I've got 3 more soldiers to paint, but I've been playing with them unpainted, which is driving me crazy. So I got to get those things done. But my bugs are done. my dropship is done. I've got plenty of sci-fi terrain. And whenever I get a free chance, I just come down here and I usually play a game. There are a number of scenarios that Joe McCullough has created. The rules come with one right here, day 1. And Joe has been releasing additional scenarios sort of, here and there. I'll put links below so you can find them. But by all means, you definitely, if you're into skirmish war games or just even curious, this is a great one to get started in. Again, very low cost. Instead of sci-fi terrain here, you could just use, found objects like books and bowls and things like that. Just anything to break up the terrain and break up line of sight. Again, bugs, soldiers, and civilians, you could do paper minis. And I will put links to this one and some soldiers. The soldiers are free. This one was, I think, $1 on Drive-Thru RPG for the civilians. But I will put a link to some free soldier minis that you can cut out and glue. And they're just like these. They're front and back. Very well done. And, of course, terrain. You can watch my videos and other videos to learn how to make some terrain if you want to get the game looking a little more science fiction-y. So that's all I have, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, these were really fun to make, just using these blue wiring. I can't remember what these things are called, but you can find these in the hardware store. Each one of these was $1.29. I bought 4 of them. Spray painted them, different colors, added some greebles and some granny grading and some other stuff, and did some painting, black here and stuff, just to give them a little look, just extra terrain for the table, and of course some older stuff. So anyway, this is DM Jim. I am hoping that you will give this game a shot. If you do, remember it's 10 cents per record. You don't have to do this, but if you rescue civilians, Joe asks that you make a donation to Save the Children. It's a nonprofit of 10 cents per civilian. So get out there, save a lot of these civilians, and make a donation to Save the Children, and do something good for the world while you're enjoying a skirmish war game. This is DM Jim. I will see you next week with another video. Take care.